parents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, friends, and neighbors are represented today by these 26 empty chairs. Not only were those 26 innocent lives taken from their loved ones, they were taken from us as well. Although we never knew any of them personally, we all felt their loss. We felt their loss because all of us, in some way, our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors, small children, or teachers. What happened in Sandy Hook that Friday morning was not some tragedy in a place that we didn't know about, to people we didn't recognize. Those were little children in sparkly sneakers, blue jeans, with backpacks that were too big for their feet. They were in classrooms that had been lovingly decorated with construction paper and glue by their teachers. Then they were dead. Martin Luther King once said, sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is feeling sorry with someone. As hard as it was, we knew instantly. We felt instantly that empathy with the people in Newtown. Because we instantly knew it could have been Madison. We knew instantly that Sandy Hook could have been Shorewood, Frank, Leopold, Schenck, Lindbergh, or any of the other schools where we send our kids every day, that we drive past every day, where our daughters teach every day. Today, we come together to reconnect with that empathy. At the request of Sandy Hook parents and the community of Newtown, we come together today to remember and to resolve. Today we come together to remember the 26 lives that were taken a year ago, and to remember the other ways our lives have been touched by gun violence. Today we come together to resolve in the coming year to do more to heal, to help, to understand, and prevent victims of gun violence. This afternoon's service is sponsored by the Wisconsin Anti-Violence Network, by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and Dane County Organizing for Action. But represented here this afternoon are more than 40 groups and other congregations. They're all listed, the speakers are listed in your programs. At 1:30, regardless of where we are in the program, we'll pause and light 26 candles and ring the bell 26 times in memory of the lives and lost inside that school. And then as you leave the sanctuary, in order to continue the theme of the service, you'll each be offered a bell to take with you. Let's be clear. Today is not about action. is a day of remembrance and resolve. But we realize that some of you may want some place to go with your anger and your grief. After the service, there'll be representatives of the sponsoring organizations available outside the sanctuary. They'll be happy to meet with you if you would like, but only if you would like, to connect. We'd like to thank Reverend Michael Schuler and First Unitarian Society, Linda Warren for the music, for being such gracious hosts. And at this time, I'd ask Reverend Schuler to offer the invocation.
Thank you, Jerry. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here today to our atrium auditorium. Outside these windows, the snow drifts slowly down like frozen tears from an ashen sky on this a day when the indelible images of heart-struck parents and the stricken community are resurrected. On a day when a nation's empathy for the people of Newtown is stirred to life once more. Lingering sorrow brings us here today, but so does hope. Hope for reassurance, hope for encouragement, hope for greater compassion, hope for healing and renewal. And so this afternoon, let this be a house of hope where people young and old may find in this gathered community the hope that sustains. The spirit of hope within us and among us. Restore our faith in life's promise. Empower.
Happy and they have success however they define it. Never once was I thinking that I would put protection from some horrific violence on that list until recently. I would like to share with you today a reading called Tendencies by Benito Figueroa, the poet laureate of New Jersey. We tend to think, never me. Tell ourselves it couldn't happen, not here, not now, not to me, not to us. Convince ourselves that life is a lottery of moments, that we are destined to win that jackpot, that we are protected from all the evils around us, that we are somehow immune from the finality of things. That December morning, I sat in a school gymnasium in New Jersey, waiting to hear my daughter and her classmates butcher and remix Frosty the Snowman. Surrounded by parents, camera lenses, grandparents, and children in green and red thumbing through lyric sheets, wiggling nervously in their seats. I sat there, a smile awkwardly painted across my face, my eyes straining to get a good view of my daughter in her construction paper top hat. I was safe and warm. I began to notice the phone checkers during the second song. I remember thinking, what could be more important than watching your child sing? I commented on how rude people had become, muttered something half-heartedly about Facebook ruining everything, and went back to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the third-grade singers. As we were leaving, I started hearing the comments. Have you heard about Connecticut? Did you hear what happened? God help them. By the time we got home, every radio station and channel whirred with the news. Never me, not here, not now, not to me, thank God. My heart choked on the thought. Never me, not here, not now, not to me, thank God. I thought about how easily those hallways could have been a school gymnasium, about how quickly Connecticut could have been New Jersey, how their daughter could have been my daughter, how their terror could have been my burden, how this tragedy, although uniquely theirs, belonged to us all, to each parent watching, hands over mouth on their couches, to every teacher that faked a smile and went back to teaching after hearing the news, to every person, soul that shook and cried, never me, not here, not now, not to me. bring myself to take to social media and type away canned reactions or build a soapbox from this incident from which to shout about my newly found beliefs on gun control. All I could think to do was to hold my daughter, to tell her I love her, to say those words once for each gorgeous face that will never get to utter them again, to change my mantra, never me, not here, not now, not to me, thank God. Replace it with an affirmation of our love, to own this feeling, to let this imperfect heart ache and beat, to repeat, I love you, 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 I love you.
I don't look for platforms to speak. I have classrooms. Up until a year ago, as with most of us here, I'd never heard of Sandy Brook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, even though I went to high school an hour away. Now I'll never forget it. When we think about schools and their importance in our communities, I'm reminded of the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, but also much more. I'm quite sure the appreciation of the arts and learning about healthy living are as essential to our overarching goals of developing good citizens. What good are reading, writing, as well as computation without our ability to analyze within the aesthetic for life itself? Descartes, the old Frenchman, said, I think, therefore I am, and indeed we think constantly. Millions of thoughts. Who can remember all the thoughts we think? Life is filled with contradictions, and we must learn how to navigate them while sharing this planet with 7 billion other humans. Outside of our homes, hospitals, and houses of worship, our schools should be the safest place on earth. We send our most precious there to reach their potential as citizens. But 1 year ago in Western Connecticut, this wasn't so. And this one really floored me. 17 times since that day across America, this also hasn't been so. 17 times. Again yesterday on college. As a teacher, a profession I chose the most, like most of my sisters and brothers in the field, I wanted to make a difference in the future of our planet. We want to contribute to the development of the next generation. Krista McAuliffe, I don't know if you remember her, New Hampshire social studies teacher who perished in the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, said, I touch the future, I teach. As a personal note, my wife and I are very well educated. Mrs. Litt, even more educated than me. We read to our children on a daily basis. We took them to what we thought were educational outings, etc., etc., etc. Nothing worked. They weren't reading. Nothing happened. Okay? But then something happened. It's called first grade. And first grade teachers. And one day, each of them came home in their own time, and they could read. I have no idea. The science department chair at West High School. Very intellectual job. I have no idea. I tried. All of a sudden, the first grade teacher taught them how to read. Well, first grade teachers are now having to do even more. It seems to me that there are so many great things that happen in our schools. It's our 3rd president, Thomas Jefferson, himself a conflicted person on the issue of slavery, who said a nation that expects to be free and ignorant expects what never was and never shall be. We must continue to support our schools in every way we can. Society demands this. But the pathology of mental health issues piggyback on the numbing effect of violence in our society in its many forms and the proliferation of guns is just plain bad. Let us strive to make things better on a daily basis. Love and nurture our children. Raise them to be good citizens, to contribute to the greater good, to share the bounty that is ours with all. Monitor their health. Everybody, monitor their health, including mental health. And get help when needed. There's always help out there. And above all, keep and treat firearms with great respect. Individuals with mental health issues, as well as school-aged kids, should never have free access to guns and ammunition. Never. Thank you.
What is our responsibility to one another? We're not keeping our responsibilities to one another. Where's our mercy? We don't have mercy for one another. We don't try to reach out to one another. And when that happens, people feel alone. And when people feel alone, they go off alone and they think about dark things. They have dark ideas. And so, years and years ago, about 17 years ago, when I had that gun in my hand and I felt empowered, I also felt hopeless. That was my compensation for hopelessness. I found that to be an empowerment for me. But then when I went to prison for gun violence, I had to ask myself, was it worth it? I had a resounding no. But I had to figure out who I was, and I had to rid myself of all of those traumas that I had faced growing up in my neighborhoods from abandonment and all of those particular issues before I really came to grips with myself and asked myself the value of human life. And it's not easy to overcome something like that when you go through so much. But I'm here to tell you today that redemption is possible. And that if we are able to reach out to these people that are in possession of these guns, because it's a war going on right down the street in Illinois, in Chicago, it's a war going on there in Detroit, it's a war going on there in Minnesota, it's a war going on all around us. And that war is fueled by hurt. How are we going to take the proper measures to start healing? How are we going to begin the conversation about connecting with one another and checking in on one another and seeing how we value one another? What are we going to do about this? Mourning is one thing, but doing something is another thing. We can mourn all we want, but we need action. Thank you.
We gather because it is in community that we share and find strength and common purpose. It is in community today that we grieve, that we hold in our hearts and minds those who are grieving, those who we have lost to violence. 1 year ago today, as the horror unfolded, we held our children to our chests. We wept, we prayed, we called for an end to this country's fascination with guns. We thought, surely this will bring about change. Surely the massacre of 20 school children will bring us to our senses. Daniel Barden, Josephine Gray, Chase Kowalski, and Grace McDonald were 7 years old when they died on December 14th, 2012. My daughter Minna was also 7 years old on that day. This year, my daughter learned to ride a two-wheeler, to swim with confidence. She went to Girl Scout camp, ran her first 5K, and tonight we'll decorate our Christmas tree. In the last 12 months, our family has shared moments that Daniel, Grace, Josephine, and Chase and their families will never again share. 1 year ago today, many of us sat in a quiet, huddled conversation, wondering how to talk to our kids about the 20 children who never came home from school that day. And at that same time, powerful forces were already working on strategies to silence our call for an end to unfettered access to guns. We were told not to politicize the deaths, that the time to talk would be after the funerals, but as we've learned, the funerals never end, one after another, over 32,000 of them since Newtown. So many gun deaths that one might argue we're immune to the news of them. How else can we explain that the brawls that broke out on Black Friday garnered more attention than the shootings that occurred that day? There were even YouTube videos dedicated to documenting the violence unfolding on Black Friday as shoppers whipped into a frenzy by retailers hungry for more profit, perpetrated acts of violence, including shootings for the sake of a bargain. And we asked, what's wrong with those people? Every time there's a mass shooting, the media asks, what's wrong with the shooter? But the truth is, only when we ask and honestly answer, what is wrong with us as a society, will we begin to understand that the change required to end gun violence goes far beyond the need for stricter gun laws. We gather today because as people of faith, we're called to be in relationship with one another, but guns deny relationships. The sad reality is that according to Mother Jones magazine, at least 194 children aged 12 and under have been shot to death since Newtown, including 2-year-old Taj Avesh, who died Thanksgiving week when he found a loaded pistol in the family living room, pulled the trigger, and slumped to the floor. Can we imagine what might have been for Taj? Or for Whitney Hughes, age 12, had she not been murdered by a parent? Or what the future may have held for Michael Leland, age 3, who was accidentally shot to death in his own home? Or what the world may have missed out on the death of John O'Brien, age 3, when he was accidentally shot to death in his own home? Organizations like the NRA claim that the only way to secure our safety is to arm more people. They say that the citizenry must be armed to protect it from tyranny. That's their rationale for opposing the common sense gun control measures that 75% of their own membership supports. Which begs the question, what is tyranny? Is it oppressive power, as in political clout, that pressures politicians to ignore the safety and will of a majority of the population who, after Newtown, called for stricter gun laws? Is tyranny absolutism, as in, it's every person's absolute right to own a gun, whatever type of gun they wish, and to carry that gun wherever they wish, and to pull it out and fire it at an unarmed teenager in a hoodie walking home to his dad's house, armed only with a bag of Skittles and a bottle of pop? The NRA argues that more guns make us safe, but the data refutes their arguments. 127 of those 194 children died in their own homes, dozens more in the homes of friends and relatives. 72 of the children pulled the trigger themselves or were shot dead by another child. 50 of those involved a child handling a gun left unsecured. 60 of the children died at the hands of their own parents. 50 of those were homicides, and the average age was 6 years old. As people of faith, we're called to speak truth to power, and so let's speak the truth and call the NRA leaders out for what they have become, political tyrants. Change can come. Despite their tyrannical approach to gun rights, 41 the deaths when in fact we are simply being true to our faith. It will require that we dedicate ourselves to the cause. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, there's a service of child dedication, in which the congregation pledges its support of a child. Now, it may seem odd to talk about such a joyful event today, but I think it holds relevance. We can't bring back the lives of tens of thousands of children lost to gun violence, but we can dedicate ourselves to ending the gun violence that has claimed so many lives. Unitarian Universalist Robert Eller Isaacs wrote a blessing for the service of child dedication, and I hope that my Unitarian Universalist friends will forgive me for having taken some liberty in rewording that blessing for use today. It is our faith that each child born is one more redeemer. By this service of dedication, we commit ourselves to the nurture of every child. We commit that we are ready to dedicate ourselves to all those children, living and dead, who have been affected by gun violence, and all those who will be affected by gun violence. We are prepared. We will dedicate our minds and hearts to the protection of these children. We will strive to love and cherish them, even though we do not know them. We will love them and cherish them always. We will acknowledge the divine spark within each child. We will work to be worthy guardians of these young lives, to build a community in which every child grows old, surrounded by beauty, embraced by love, and cradled in the arms of peace. May it be so.
Remembering means never forgetting. Certainly not when the images are seared in our memory banks, as they really should. Remembering is good, even though it hurts. So, join with me as, again, we remember two scenarios. The first, 1 year ago this morning, 20 happy-go-lucky first-grade children going to school, their principal and their teachers anxious to teach them. They were innocent, as in lovable, as in sweet, adorable. Visions of the holidays, no doubt dancing in their heads. So remember that picture, even as you remember your own children at that age. The second image, 1 hour later, when the Sandy Hook parents heard the shocking, overwhelming news that their little ones had been snatched from their lives, snatched by a troubled young man with a Bushmaster rifle for reasons that we will never know. So you can imagine how painful this anniversary must be for those parents. They will never be able to share birthdays or graduations with those children. Despite their grief, the Sandy Hook parents bravely, courageously have begun promoting a national dialogue on gun violence, on mental health, on school safety. They chose to honor their children with a promise of real change. Their goal, to find good, common sense solutions. So today, we're joining with those parents to remember and to resolve that in Wisconsin and across America, we will do everything in our power to prevent such gun violence in the future. So sponsors. They're identified on the back side of the program that you receive. We'll have volunteers outside from the sponsors who will be glad to talk to. Their addresses are also on the back side of that program. You can also sign in today with any of our volunteers, or just tear off the portion of the back side of the program and send it in. You would be most welcome to join us to remember Sandy Hook and resolve to become more involved.
entitled For Lost Friends. When we love another heart and allow it to love us, we journey deep below time into that eternal weave where nothing unravels. May we have the grace to see, despite the hurt of rupture, the searing of anger, and the empty of disappointment. May we have the grace to see that whomever we have loved, such love can never quench. Though a door may have closed between us, may we be able to view our lost friends with eyes wise with calming grace. May we bring warmth again to where the heart has frozen, in order that beyond the walls of our cherished hurt and chosen distance, we may be able to celebrate the gifts they brought, learn and grow from the pain, prosper into difference, wishing them the peace where spirit can summon beauty from wounded space. Blessed be, and amen.